Hey guys, IceWire here, and today we are talking about Anthem. Now, like many of you, I got to try out the public demo over the weekend, and I wanted to give my thoughts on that. And some folks in my Discord have asked questions about Anthem, which I will be answering in this video. So first up, I'll be answering the questions and then jumping into my own thoughts. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So the first question is, how much does it feel like a single player game versus a multiplayer game? Now, when I played the demo, I played half of it by myself, so what you've seen on my channel, I put up a first impressions video before this went up, so you've seen that if you've watched it. I played that on a private server, but in my own time I did play in a public server. But I started off alone because that's just how I like to play my games personally. I prefer to go at it alone because I'm all about that single player life. Now, alone you can pretty much do your own thing and experience the story and explore and all that jazz and fight. You can pretty much hold your own pretty easy in some instances, but I did notice that it feels very empty if you're going at it alone. Compared to when I played it on the public server, the private server felt very kind of lonely, if I'm being honest. And as for the public server, it felt like you get 4, so it's yourself and 3 other players that you get teamed up with. And those other players, you don't have to hear them. So if you're like me, and you don't like hearing other people, then 10 points for Gryffindor. So you end up paired up with these 3 other random players, and it does feel, when you have those other players, it feels like you're it just feels like the world, or whatever you're taking part in, is a bit more lively compared to when you go at it alone, if that makes sense. Now that's not to say that you can't have fun on your own. I managed to have fun on my own. However, that is something to keep in mind when it comes to Anthem. It is definitely, the focus is not so much on a single player experience. It is definitely geared towards multiplayer. It's geared towards teaming up, so keep that in mind. Now, the second question is, how much are you reliant on other players? Can you just do your own thing? And in short, yes, you can do your own thing. You don't have to rely on other players. However, having other players is quite handy in some instances. You can handle things on your own fairly easy. I didn't find myself thinking, oh, I wish I had backup at too many points when I played and when I got into combat. However, there are boss fights in this that it can get challenging, and having that extra backup at your back is definitely helpful in those instances. So that's another thing to keep in mind, but overall you can handle yourself. You don't really have to rely on anybody because there's not too much of a team dynamic, which sounds weird because, you know, Anthem is multiplayer, you get paired up into a team, you go off. So with that in mind, when I paired up with people, it wasn't really much of a team effort. It was just sort of focus on the objective and then team up when it comes to fighting a whole bunch of baddies. But overall, yeah, you don't have to rely on anybody. You're pretty much set to take on things by yourself pretty easy. Is it possible to make good storytelling in a multiplayer environment? Now, here's where I get a bit torn. The story of Anthem, or what little I played, is interesting. It has an interesting premise. Getting into spoiler territory here. In the missions I played, you recover an artifact from the enemy within some ruins, you bring it back, and the main character that you interact with within the demo accidentally clones himself, but all the clones are very unstable and slowly decaying, and their minds are also decaying as well. So you have to fix it before it's too late, right? Now here's the biggest issue I came across with the story. As I said, its premise is great. I like the story, but the characters feel quite flat. While their faces are animated, their eyes just have this lifeless gaze to them, which is somewhat reminiscent of Mass Effect Andromeda. I will give it that. But it's not to the same potato-faced level, if you get my drift. And at times you can see where the focus on which characters are prioritized over others comes into play. As you can see here, this is Matthias. He's pretty detailed looking. And this is another character you meet during the missions in the demo. As you can see, she is a potato. That's another thing I found, or this is part of my opinion, the character models, the men look fantastic, whereas the women look like potatoes. I have no other way of describing it. Any female character I came across just looks like a potato. Now, I'm not saying that there was like an agenda or anything that like...
the white one is anti-feminism.
I don't fucking know. But all I'm saying is that the men are definitely... There's so much detail to them. Overall, I just found it kind of funny that the men, they're snacks, whereas the women, they're stale biscuits. There was one black lady that I came across though who actually looked pretty cool, but I couldn't talk to her because she wasn't a part of the demo, which sucks. Now back to the question. Overall, the storytelling in Anthem is present. There is a story, but it takes a while to feel really invested in what you're doing. Often I felt bored and didn't really pay attention to what my objective was, which isn't really a good thing. Now if you care about a solid story like I do, then this will probably pop up a lot for you too. Is the gameplay and combat interesting with such a small rotation of abilities? Now, the gameplay and combat is the strongest part of Anthem, I feel. Granted, there are moments during the combat where it definitely feels like it has potential to get very rinse and repeat. You know, you go to an area, there are enemies there, and you shoot them, and then you just rinse and repeat that action over and over. However, there are moments where the combat and just, I don't know, the gameplay, flying around in the javelin, that's where Anthem shines. You can definitely tell that the javelins are where Bioware has focused like their love and attention on, because that is the best part of Anthem, are those javelins. Now the abilities that you get do vary across which javelin you end up in. So you end up with the basic javelin and you get a missile launching ability and a grenade throwing ability, as well as a shielding ability. And these abilities are different across each of the javelins. So even if you play as the main javelin, I believe as a ranger, it won't be the same as the storm javelin, which is the other javelin that I got to play as. And they can feel a bit basic at times, but I think the best part, where it gets really fun with these javelins and the combat, are the ultimate abilities. Now, each javelin suit has an ultimate ability, and they're fucking awesome. They're just fucking great. The ranger one has this missile shooting one where it just shoots a fuck ton of targeted missiles, and it feels great every time. I love it, and it can really back you up in a boss fight. So yeah, I adored that. I felt great every time I played it. And the other javelin I got to play, the storm javelin. Now the storm javelin I got to play has a different ultimate. Now the storm is kind of like the mage class, I guess you could say, in Anthem. So you get a lot of elemental abilities. And the ultimate has an ability where you can shoot a firebomb, an ice bomb, and a lightning bomb in any direction you want separately. And it just, like with the missile one for the ranger suit, it's awesome. It's so cool. Honestly, I think the only boring parts of the gameplay was probably just walking around in the fort. I found that really boring, and at times it was quite janky. So if there's any critique I had to give on the gameplay, it would probably be that, and the fact that it has potential to get repetitive after a while. But overall, it's fantastic. The javelins are the heart and soul of Anthem, and it clearly shows. There's a lot of love and care put into them, and I had fun. I had a lot of fun. Even if I completely flopped when it came to the flying at first. Okay, I got it. No, I don't got it. Yikes. And finally, the last question. Above all, does it feel like a Bioware game? Now, this is a tough one. I would say that when it comes to Anthem, clearly it's completely different from anything they've done in the past. I mean, it's not like Dragon Age or Mass Effect or KOTOR. I think they've done... was it Bioware that did KOTOR? So it's not like your typical Bioware RPG. There are some moments where you can pick a dialogue option, which was kind of cool, but it's not like your typical Bioware RPG. However, I will give Anthem this in its defense. There are moments in the dialogue where it's a little bit witty. It does feel like that kind of Bioware dialogue that you'd expect if you're playing like Dragon Age or something. Probably the more recent games I would compare it to. So Inquisition and Andromeda. If you think of the dialogue in that, like, not the my face is tired kind of dialogue, but like the dialogue between companions, I would say it's on the level of that with Anthem. I guess overall I'd say it definitely feels different. It's different, clearly, but there are moments where you're playing where sometimes it'll just click in your head and be like, oh yeah, that definitely feels like Bioware. So it has its moments. Now onto my opinion. Now, I was extremely skeptical about Anthem. I mean, one of my biggest videos on my channel is me basically shitting on Anthem. So I've got that going for me. But I will say that what I played, I actually enjoyed. I had fun in the demo, which I wasn't expecting to. And I don't know, it took me by surprise at some moments. I had an absolute blast in the javelins. The javelins were my favourite part of Anthem. Just hands down. The storm javelin, the movement when I unlocked that. So you have to unlock the javelins as you level up. So you start off on the ranger one, and then as you progress, you get the other ones. So eventually when I could unlock another javelin, I picked the storm one because it had a cape. But the movement on it, comparing it to the other javelin, the starter javelin, the movement on the storm javelin is so fluid. It's great. You go from being Iron Man to, I don't know, having the fluidity of, I'd say, like Vision or Magneto, if we're gonna pick, I don't know, like superhero examples, or even Superman. And that's something I'm really impressed with, is the differences between the javelins. Like, they didn't just make, I don't know, like, clone one javelin and then, I don't know, just make a javelin somewhat similar to it with a little bit of tweaking here and there. No, they made these javelins unique, which is something that I will, thumbs up. And finally, the boss fights. Now, they're fucking epic. They're pretty cool. There was a moment where I went into an underground area and there was a big fucking insect. There's something about Bioware. They have insects. Again, similar to spiders, so running theme. Definitely feels like a Bioware game. I saw this big bastard coming down and I was like, oh yeah. Yeah, that's Bioware. This is definitely Bioware. And it was a challenge. It was a fun challenge because I couldn't approach it the same way that I had approached this earlier boss. I had to think about it. So, that's another cool thing. Overall, would I play this game again? Yeah. I would. The only downside, in my opinion, is the characters. They're flat. At least in my opinion. Like, there are moments where, like, I don't know, I kind of like the dialogue here and there. I like Lucky Jack's dialogue. He was the only interesting one, personally, to me. And it's completely excluding the Pixel First. Just saying. If there's anything Bioware is good at, it's good at giving snacks. Just, yeah, the characters at moments, I don't know, it feels very meh. Which is weird because that's where Bioware shines the most, is their characters and their stories. Now, I don't want this video to go on for too long, so I guess I'll sum it up with just saying, overall, there are some flat parts of Anthem, definitely. But I will give credit to where it's due, and the combat, while it definitely has potential to get very repetitive and dry at times, the ultimate abilities and the bosses that you come across definitely make up for it, along with the javelins that you get to use. That's definitely where the game shines. Oh, and the soundtrack. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. No matter how this game does, you can't deny that the soundtrack is pretty freaking cool. But where it does fall flat is definitely the interest in what you're doing, and the story, and the characters. which definitely sucks. Even she is bored by the characters. This game does not have Muffin's seal of approval. Consider supporting me on Patreon, as it feels to grow for my content's quality and the variety and production of said content that you guys get to see all here on the channel. And of course, a massive thank you to my current patrons, of course. They are Cosmoronic, Nicholas Montoya, Caroline Richardson, Cooladora, and Kay. And if you want to see your name shouted out at the end of the video like these guys, do hop over onto Patreon and have a look around at the cool rewards on offer. Anyway guys, that is my thoughts and answering your questions on the Anthem demo. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have an opinion on Anthem, if you've played it yourself, let me know down in the comments below. I would love to hear it. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. It is IceWire signing off, and I'll see you later next time on the channel. Have a lovely day / night wherever you are in the world. And I'll see you guys next time.